The crystal walls of the Galactic Council chamber shook as another star system went dark on the massive display. Ambassador HFY watched with growing horror as the red dots marking dead worlds spread across the map like a disease. The Void Swarm had taken another system. 3 billion lives gone in a single day. "We must evacuate the outer colonies," said Councillor Thex, his blue skin pale with fear. "Pull back to the core worlds and hope they stop there." "They won't stop," HFY replied, her crystalline body dimming with despair. "They never stop. They consume everything and move on to the next system." The other council members shifted nervously in their seats. The elegant Aquan delegation whispered among themselves in their musical language. The warrior Krex pounded their armored fists on their desks but offered no real solutions. Even the logical synthetic collective seemed at a loss, their mechanical voices discussing probability calculations that all ended the same way. "Perhaps we should contact the hegemony," suggested Ambassador Velnine. "Their military might be able to slow the advance." "The hegemony won't risk their fleets for the outer colonies," HFY said bitterly. "They'll wait until the swarm reaches their borders, then offer tribute to spare themselves." The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew she was right. The great powers of the galaxy thought only of themselves. They would sacrifice the smaller civilizations to buy time. "There is one option we haven't considered," HFY said quietly. The other ambassadors turned to look at her. She could see the confusion in their eyes. What option could they have missed? "The humans," she said. The reaction was immediate. Councillor Thex laughed, a bitter sound. "The Deathworlders? Those barbarians barely invented faster than light travel 50 years ago. They're violent primitives," added Velnine. "Their entire species comes from a Class 12 death world. They fight wars over resources that civilized species share freely." HFY had heard all these arguments before. Every species in the galaxy looked down on humanity. Earth was a nightmare world of extreme weather, deadly predators, and toxic environments. The fact that any intelligent life had evolved there was considered an accident by most xenobiologists. "They are warriors," HFY said, "born and raised on a world that tried to kill them every day. If anyone can fight the Void Swarm, it's them." "They don't even have proper shields on their ships," Councillor Thex protested. "They use kinetic weapons and chemical explosives. Their idea of advanced technology is nuclear fission. And yet they've never lost a war," HFY pointed out. The chamber fell silent again. It was true, though none of them liked to admit it. Humanity had been involved in several conflicts since joining the galactic community. They had never been defeated. Their methods were crude and brutal but effective. "The Council will never approve a formal request," Velnine said finally. "Too many species fear what would happen if we gave humans a reason to build a larger military." HFY nodded. She had expected this. The galaxy feared humanity almost as much as they despised them. Stories spread through diplomatic channels about human soldiers who kept fighting with mortal wounds. Human ships that rammed enemy vessels rather than surrender. Human commanders who would sacrifice their entire fleet to save a single civilian transport. "Then I'll contact them myself," HFY said, standing from her crystalline chair. "You can't," Councillor Thex said. "Direct contact with a non-council military without authorization is forbidden." "The Void Swarm will be here in 6 months," HFY replied. "In a year this chamber will be empty and we'll all be dead. I'd rather break council law than watch the galaxy burn." She walked out of the chamber, ignoring the shocked whispers behind her. In her private quarters, she composed a message on an encrypted channel. It was simple and direct, the way humans seemed to prefer. To any human military commander receiving this transmission: "We are dying. The Void Swarm has consumed 17 star systems in the outer colonies. 300 billion people are dead. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. Please help us." She hesitated before adding the final line. "We know you have no reason to trust us. We know our species have treated yours poorly, but people are dying, and we have nowhere else to turn." The message went out on all emergency frequencies broadcast toward the Sol system. Now all she could do was wait. The response came faster than she had expected. Within 18 hours, her communication panel chimed with an incoming transmission from Earth. The voice that answered was female, speaking in accented galactic standard. "This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the United Earthship Prometheus. We received your distress call. Can you provide tactical information about this Void Swarm?" HFY's crystal body flared with hope. They had answered, The humans had actually answered. Captain Vasquez, I am Ambassador Kesva of the Zilari Federation. The Void Swarm is unlike any enemy we've faced. They consume biological matter and use it to fuel their ships. They show no interest in negotiation or surrender. How big are their ships? Captain Vasquez asked. The largest we've seen are approximately 2 kilometers long. They appear to be grown rather than built. There was a pause. When Captain Vasquez spoke again, her voice was cold and professional. Ambassador, I'm forwarding your message to Earth Command. But I want you to understand something. If we come to fight. We don't do half measures. I understand, Captain. No, I don't think you do. Your people see us as barbarians. Maybe you're right. But barbarians know how to kill things that need killing. If we come, we're not going to follow your rules of civilized warfare. We're going to end this threat permanently. Kesva felt a chill run through her crystalline structure. There was something in the human's voice that reminded her why the galaxy feared these Deathworlders. Captain, if you can save what's left of the outer colonies, you can use any methods you see fit. Copy that, Ambassador. Prometheus out. The communication ended, leaving Kesva alone in her quarters. She had just invited the most feared species in the galaxy to wage war on the greatest threat they had ever faced. She wondered if she had just saved the galaxy or doomed it. 3 days later, her communication panel chimed again. This time the voice was different, older, and more authoritative. Ambassador Kesva, this is Admiral Chen of Earth Command. We've reviewed your situation. The Terran Expeditionary Force is mobilizing. We'll be in your space within 2 weeks. Admiral, how many ships are you sending? All of them. I'm sorry, I don't understand. All of what? All of them, Ambassador. Every ship we have. Military, civilian, cargo haulers, passenger liners. We're converting everything that can carry weapons. When someone calls for help, we answer with everything we've got. Kesva stared at her communication panel in shock. She had asked for help, and the humans were sending their entire civilization to war. Admiral, you don't understand the risk. The Void Swarm has destroyed fleets 10 times larger than yours. Maybe so, but they've never fought humans before. We'll see you soon, Ambassador. Chen out. As the transmission ended, Kesva realized she had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. She had thought she was asking warriors for help. Instead, she had awakened something far more dangerous. She had awakened a species that would rather die fighting than live in fear. The shipyards around Earth buzzed with activity that hadn't been seen since the Martian Independence War. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Vengeance, watching through the massive viewport as humanity prepared for war. Cargo ships were being fitted with missile pods. Passenger liners had their luxury suites stripped out and replaced with fighter bays. Even mining vessels were getting armor plating and railguns. Admiral, the conversion crews are working around the clock, reported Commander Sarah Kim. But some of the civilian captains are asking questions about combat pay and hazard bonuses. Chen turned from the viewport, his weathered face set in grim lines. Tell them there is no combat pay. Tell them there are no bonuses. Tell them that 300 billion people are dead, and more are dying while we stand here talking about money. Sir, some of them might refuse to. Then they can explain to their children why they stayed home while people were screaming for help. Chen cut her off. Anyone who wants to back out can do it now. But once we jump to hyperspace, we're all in this together. Commander Kim nodded and walked away to relay the message. Chen turned back to the viewport. In 72 hours, humanity would either save the galaxy or die trying. He was oddly comfortable with both possibilities. The intercom crackled to life. Admiral, this is Captain Morrison of the cargo hauler Big Betty. We just finished installing the torpedo tubes you requested. My crew wants to know if we get to keep the weapons after this is over. Chen smiled for the first time in days. Captain, if we survive this, you can keep whatever you want. Copy that, Admiral. Big Betty is ready for war. That was the human way, Chen thought. Give them a chance to fight for something important, and they would volunteer to fly into hell itself. The conversion of the civilian fleet was happening faster than anyone had thought possible. Humanity had a talent for turning peaceful tools into weapons of war. Admiral, incoming transmission from the Mars Defense Fleet, announced Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. Put it through. The face of Admiral Sarah Martinez appeared on the main screen. Her red hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, but her eyes showed the same determination Chen felt. James, the Martian Council has voted. We're sending everything we have. 67 ships, including the dreadnought Olympus Mons. Sarah, you can't strip Mars of its entire defense fleet. What if what? Martinez interrupted. What if someone attacks Mars while we're gone? James, in 6 months there won't be a Mars to defend if we don't stop this thing now. Chen nodded. She was right, of course. The void swarm wouldn't stop at the outer colonies. They would keep consuming until they reached Earth itself. The Europa Mining Consortium is sending 48 ships, Martinez continued. The Asteroid Belt Collective is contributing 32. Even the Luna City Defense Force is sending 6 patrol boats. That's suicide for the patrol boats, Chen said. They're not built for this kind of fight. Tell that to Captain Park. He says Luna City doesn't hide behind bigger ships when people need help. Chen shook his head. Captain Park commanded vessels designed to chase smugglers and pirates, not fight alien monsters. But that was humanity for you. They would rather die fighting than live with the knowledge that they could have helped and chose not to. What's our final count? Chen asked. 847 ships, Martinez replied. Everything from the dreadnought Olympus Mons down to converted garbage scows. It's the largest fleet humanity has ever assembled. And the most desperate, Chen added. Over the next 2 days, the human fleet gathered in the outer Sol system. Chen watched the tactical display as ships arrived from every corner of human space. Military vessels took their positions in the formation center, surrounded by converted civilian ships that looked nothing like proper warships. The UES Prometheus arrived with Captain Vasquez, who had first received the alien distress call. She requested permission to come aboard the flagship, and Chen granted it immediately. Captain, I understand you spoke directly with the alien ambassador, Chen said when Vasquez arrived on his bridge. Yes, sir. Ambassador Kesva of the Zalari Federation. She seemed genuinely desperate. What's your assessment of the threat? Vasquez pulled up a holographic display showing the enemy ships. From what I could gather, the Void Swarm uses biological technology. Their ships are grown, not built. They consume organic matter to fuel themselves. Weaknesses? Unknown, sir. The aliens we're helping haven't been able to find any. Every engagement has ended in complete defeat for the defending forces. Chen studied the alien ship designs. They looked organic, almost alive. No hard angles or geometric shapes like human ships. They flowed like living creatures, which they probably were. Sir, if I may, Vasquez said. The ambassador mentioned that their weapons technology is more advanced than ours. Their shields are stronger, their energy weapons more powerful. But, Chen prompted, hearing the unspoken word in her voice. But they fight like civilized beings, sir. Formation flying, coordinated attacks, withdrawal when losses get too high. They've never fought anyone crazy enough to ram a battleship into their command vessel. Chen smiled grimly. Captain, that may be the most important intelligence we've received. The final ship to join the fleet was unexpected. The cargo vessel Happy Merchant, captained by an old space trader named Murphy, arrived just hours before the scheduled departure. Chen was surprised to see it on the roster. Murphy, what the hell are you doing here? Chen asked over the communication channel. Heard there was a fight brewing. Murphy replied in his gravelly voice. Figured you could use someone who knows how to keep supply lines open. This isn't a trade mission, old man. We're going to war. Admiral, I've been hauling cargo through pirate space for 30 years. You think some alien bugs scare me more than human criminals? Besides, someone's got to keep you military types supplied with coffee and ammunition. Chen laughed despite himself. Murphy was 70 years old and piloted a ship that was older than some of the officers under Chen's command. But the old trader had survived everything the galaxy could throw at him. Welcome to the fleet, Murphy. Try not to get yourself killed. Admiral, I've been trying not to get killed for decades. Haven't managed it yet. As the human fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Chen received one final transmission. It was from Earth, from the President herself. Admiral Chen, the people of Earth are watching. Not just humans, but the alien refugees we've taken in. They're all counting on you to succeed. Understood, Madam President. We won't let them down. James, I know what you're planning. The casualty estimates are significant. Chen looked out at the fleet surrounding his flagship. 847 ships carrying the hopes and dreams of humanity into the unknown. Madam President, someone called for help. That's all we need to know. Godspeed, Admiral. Bring them home. We'll bring home whoever we can, Chen replied. But we're not coming back until the job is done. The communication ended and Chen turned to his crew. All ships prepare for hyperspace jump. Destination, Kepler 442 system. Sir, Commander Kim said quietly, the crew is asking what our mission parameters are. Chen looked at the tactical display one more time, then at the faces of his bridge crew. Young and old from Earth and Mars and a dozen other worlds. All volunteers, all ready to die for people they had never met. Mission parameters are simple, he said. We save everyone we can, and we make the enemy pay for every life they've taken. No retreat, no surrender, no compromise. Yes, sir, Kim replied. All ships jump. The human fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying death and salvation in equal measure toward an enemy that had never faced anything like them before. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system, and what they saw made even the most experienced officers pause in shock. The void swarm had turned the entire system into a feeding ground. Dear God, whispered Commander Kim, staring at the tactical display. How many of them are there? Admiral Chen counted the red dots on his screen. Each one represented a void swarm ship, and there were hundreds of them. They swarmed around the planet's sanctuary like parasites, draining it of all life. Communications. Get me Ambassador Kesva, Chen ordered. The alien's crystalline face appeared on the main screen moments later. Her usual glow was dim, and Chen could see the exhaustion in her features. Admiral Chen, you came, she said, and her voice carried both relief and despair. We said we would. What's the situation on Sanctuary? 2.3 billion Zilari live on that planet. The swarm has been consuming the outer cities for 3 days. We estimate another 72 hours before the planet is completely drained. Chen studied the tactical display. The void swarm ships were massive, each one the size of a human cruiser. They moved in organic patterns, flowing like a school of fish rather than maintaining military formations. Admiral, our combined fleet is positioned behind the moon, Kesva continued. We have 400 ships from 6 different species. We've been waiting for reinforcements. How long have you been waiting? 18 days, Kesva admitted. The Galactic Council promised additional fleets, but they haven't arrived. Chen understood. The other civilizations were abandoning the outer colonies to save themselves. It was the logical choice, the safe choice. It was everything humanity had never been. Ambassador, we're going in. I suggest your fleet stays back and provides support. Admiral, with respect, we outnumber you 5-1. Surely a coordinated attack would be more effective. Ambassador, has your coordinated approach been working? The silence that followed was answer enough. All ships, this is Admiral Chen, he announced on the fleet-wide channel. We have 3 billion people down there who are counting on us. The enemy has numbers and technology, but they've never fought humans before. Show them what a mistake that was. Captain Vasquez was the first to respond. U.S. Prometheus moving to attack position. Time to introduce these bugs to kinetic warfare. The human fleet surged forward in a formation that would have horrified any military academy instructor. The big ships were in front, but the smaller vessels darted between them like angry wasps. There was no grand battle plan, no careful coordination. There was only the human approach to warfare. Hit hard, hit fast, and never stop hitting. The void swarm noticed the approaching fleet and began to respond. Their ships turned with fluid grace, energy weapons charging with an ominous glow. Admiral Chen watched as the first enemy barrage lit up space. Evasive action, he ordered, but the warning was unnecessary. Human pilots were already throwing their ships into violent maneuvers that would have killed any civilized crew. The energy beams passed harmlessly through empty space where the human ships had been moments before. Return fire, Chen commanded. The human response was immediate and brutal. Railgun slugs traveling at significant fractions of light speed punched through void swarm hulls like bullets through paper. Nuclear missiles detonated in brilliant flashes, sending alien bioships tumbling through space. Direct hit on the large one, reported Commander Kim. It's leaking some kind of fluid. That's their blood, Chen said grimly. Keep shooting. The void swarm had expected the humans to fight like every other species they had encountered. Careful formations, measured responses, retreat when losses mounted. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to get more aggressive as the battle intensified. Captain Morrison of the converted cargo, hauler Big Betty, proved this point when his ship took a direct hit that knocked out his main engines. Big Betty to fleet. We're dead in space, but our weapons are still online. Any bugs that want to come close are welcome to try. The void swarm took the bait. 3 alien ships moved in to finish off the crippled human vessel. Morrison waited until they were point-blank range, then detonated every nuclear warhead in his cargo hold simultaneously. The explosion vaporized all 4 ships and sent a shockwave through the enemy formation. "Murphy, you magnificent bastard," Admiral Chen muttered, watching the tactical display. But Morrison's sacrifice had opened a gap in the enemy line. "All ships follow Big Betty's lead." Pushed through their formation, the human fleet poured through the opening like water through a broken dam. Suddenly, they were among the Void Swarm, and the aliens discovered another uniquely human tactic: ramming. Captain Sarah Kim of the destroyer Lightning Bolt lost her main weapons to enemy fire, so she simply aimed her ship at the nearest Void Swarm vessel and pushed her engines to maximum power. Lightning Bolt to fleet, ramming speed. "See you in hell, you ugly bugs." Her ship struck the alien vessel at tremendous velocity, crushing both ships in a ball of fire and debris. But the alien ship was 3 times larger than Lightning Bolt, and its destruction cleared the way for 6 more human vessels. The Void Swarm began to fall back, confused by human tactics. They had fought hundreds of species, but none had ever used their own ships as weapons. None had ever seemed to welcome death as long as they could take enemies with them. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface," reported Lieutenant Torres. "Put it through." The voice that came through was weak and filled with static, but clearly alien. "Human ships, this is Colonel Veltarn of the Sanctuary Defense Force. We're trapped in the capital city. The swarm has us surrounded. Colonel, this is Admiral Chen. How many civilians are with you?" "Approximately 50,000, Admiral. We've been holding them off for 3 days, but our ammunition is running low." Chen looked at the tactical display. The planet was crawling with Void Swarm creatures. A rescue mission would be suicide. "Colonel, we're coming to get you. Hold your position." "Admiral, you can't possibly land enough ships to evacuate everyone. The swarm controls the orbital space. We're not evacuating you, Colonel. We're coming down to fight." Chen opened a channel to the transport ships in his fleet. "All troop transports prepare for immediate planetary assault. We have 50,000 civilians and an unknown number of defenders who need our help." "Sir," Commander Kim said quietly, "a planetary assault with the swarm in control of orbit is military suicide. We could lose everything." "Commander, those people called for help. We don't abandon people who call for help." The human response was typically insane. Instead of trying to clear the orbital space first, they simply loaded every available soldier into drop pods and fired them at the planet's surface. The Void Swarm shot down many of the pods, but humans had anticipated this. For every pod carrying soldiers, there were 3 carrying nothing but sensors and transmitters. The swarm wasted their fire on decoys while the real human forces landed safely. Colonel Martinez led the first wave of human soldiers onto Sanctuary's surface. What she found was a nightmare landscape of half-consumed buildings and organic growths that pulsed with alien life. "This is Colonel Martinez to Fleet Command. We've landed in the capital city." The locals weren't kidding about being surrounded. The Void Swarm creatures on the surface were different from their spaceborne cousins. These were ground troops designed for close combat. They moved on multiple legs and had natural weapons that could cut through most armor, but they had never fought human soldiers before. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Johnson as the first wave of aliens attacked. "They're fast, but they bleed just fine." The human soldiers responded with weapons that seemed primitive compared to alien energy technology. Gunpowder-based projectiles, chemical explosives, and bayonets. But these weapons had been designed to kill things on Earth, and Earth had spent millions of years creating the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The Void Swarm creatures were fast and strong, but they weren't faster than human reflexes or stronger than human determination. When Private Williams ran out of ammunition, he drew his knife and kept fighting. When Corporal Chen's rifle jammed, she picked up a piece of debris and used it as a club. "Human soldiers, this is Colonel Veltarn," came a transmission from the alien defenders. "We can see your forces from our position. Your tactics are unusual. Colonel, this is Colonel Martinez." "What do you mean unusual?" "You're advancing into the enemy. Every other species falls back when facing the swarm." Martinez looked around at her soldiers, who were indeed pushing forward into the alien horde. They weren't retreating, weren't taking defensive positions. They were hunting. "Colonel Veltarn, we don't retreat. We attack until everything that wants to hurt people is dead. But the odds are impossible. There are thousands of them." Martinez smiled grimly as she watched her soldiers systematically destroy everything that moved. "Colonel, you've never seen humans fight before. We don't care about odds." Word of the human victory at Sanctuary spread through the galaxy, faster than the speed of light. Within days, every species with access to galactic communications had heard the impossible story. The Void Swarm, which had destroyed entire civilizations, had been beaten back by the primitive Deathworlders from Earth. Admiral Chen received the first request for assistance while his fleet was still repairing battle damage in the Sanctuary system. Admiral, this is Prime Minister Velkoth of the Altair Republic, the transmission began. We've heard about your victory against the Void Swarm. We have 12 million civilians trapped on our outer colonies. Can you help us? Chen looked at his tactical display. His fleet had lost 63 ships at Sanctuary, and many of the survivors were barely combat ready. But the request was impossible to ignore. Prime Minister, we'll be there in 4 days, Chen replied. The pattern continued as the human fleet moved through the contested systems. Each victory brought new requests for help, and each request was answered with the same determination. The humans never asked for payment, never demanded political concessions. They simply arrived, fought, and moved on to the next crisis. Captain Murphy, the old trader, had somehow acquired a fleet of refugee ships that followed the human armada. His cargo bay had been converted into a hospital, and alien doctors worked alongside human medics to treat the wounded from dozens of species. Murphy, how did you end up running a mobile hospital? Admiral Chen asked during one of their regular check-ins. Someone had to do it, Murphy replied with his characteristic shrug. These aliens patch up our people when they get hurt. Seems fair to return the favor. The human fleet grew larger as they advanced through the war zone. Alien ships that had survived Void Swarm attacks requested permission to join the human force. At first, Chen was reluctant to accept them. Admiral, with respect, your tactics are effective but chaotic, explained Captain Vel 9 of the synthetic collective ship Logical Conclusion. Our computational abilities could provide strategic advantages. Captain, can your crew follow orders without question? Chen asked. Of course, Admiral. Even if those orders seem suicidal? There was a pause. Yes, Admiral. If you believe the orders are necessary. Then welcome to the fleet. Just remember, we don't fight to win. We fight to save people. Sometimes those are the same thing. Sometimes they're not. The addition of alien ships to the human fleet created unexpected advantages. The Aquan vessels provided advanced medical facilities. The synthetic collective ships offered computational power that could analyze Void Swarm tactics in real time. The warrior Krex brought weapons technology that even impressed human engineers. But it was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a human xenobiologist, who made the breakthrough that changed everything. Admiral, I think I understand how the Void Swarm works, she announced during a fleet conference call. They're not just aliens using biological technology. They're a parasite that takes over other species. Explain, Chen ordered. I've been studying the remains of destroyed swarm ships. The biological components show traces of dozens of different species. The swarm doesn't just kill civilizations, it absorbs them. Commander Kim leaned forward. You're saying those ships were once other people? Not exactly. It's more like the swarm uses the biological material to grow its ships and weapons. But here's the important part. It means they have weaknesses based on the original biology. Dr. Tanaka pulled up a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Void Swarm vessel. They're vulnerable to Earth-based pathogens. Our diseases, our biological weapons, even some of our industrial chemicals are toxic to them. How toxic? Chen asked. Admiral, a single canister of industrial cleaning solution could kill everything on a swarm ship. They have no immunity to Earth biology because they've never encountered it. The implications were staggering. Humanity's greatest weakness in galactic society, their origin on a world so hostile that most aliens considered it uninhabitable, had become their greatest weapon. Doctor, how fast can you weaponize this information? Give me a week and access to the fleet's manufacturing facilities. I can turn every human ship into a biological warfare platform. The next engagement proved Dr. Tanaka's theory correct. The human fleet encountered a Void Swarm force at the Vega system, where they were consuming the ancient archives of the Scholar caste. All ships. This is Admiral Chen. Dr. Tanaka's modifications are installed. Let's see how these bugs like a taste of Earth. The human attack began conventionally enough. Railguns and missiles struck the swarm ships, opening holes in their organic hulls. But then came something new. Human boarding pods filled not with soldiers but with automated systems that sprayed Earth-based pathogens throughout the enemy vessels. The effect was immediate, and devastating. Void swarm ships that had shrugged off nuclear weapons began to dissolve from the inside out. Their biological hulls turned black and brittle, cracking like eggshells. "My God," whispered Captain Vasquez as she watched a kilometer-long swarm vessel crumble to dust. "They're just melting." "Admiral, this is Scholar Prime Kethna," came a transmission from the planet's surface. "We're detecting massive die-offs in the swarm ground forces." "What did you do?" "We gave them a small sample of Earth's biodiversity," Chen replied. "Turns out they're not as tough as they thought." The victory at Vega marked the turning point of the war. For the first time since the Void Swarm had appeared, they were truly retreating. Not tactical withdrawals or regrouping, but genuine fear-driven flight. The galactic news networks, which had initially dismissed the human fleet as a desperate gesture, began to change their tone. Reporter Vel Kess of the Galactic Broadcasting Network summarized the new reality during a live transmission. "In 3 weeks, the human fleet has accomplished what our combined forces could not do in 6 months. They have stopped the Void Swarm's advance and begun pushing them back. But perhaps more importantly, they have shown us something we had forgotten. Sometimes the price of civilization is the willingness to be uncivilized." As the human fleet prepared to advance toward the core swarm territories, Admiral Chen received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Kesva arrived on a diplomatic transport, requesting permission to come aboard the flagship. "Ambassador, this is a war zone," Chen told her when she appeared on his bridge. "You should be somewhere safe." "Admiral, my people were the first to call for help. I want to see this through to the end." Chen studied the alien diplomat. Her crystalline structure was brighter than when he had first met her, and she carried herself with new confidence. "Ambassador, what we're planning next isn't going to be pretty. We're going to the swarm's home territory to finish this." "I understand, Admiral, but I've learned something important these past weeks. Sometimes doing the right thing requires doing terrible things. My people forgot that lesson. We became so civilized that we lost the ability to fight for what matters." "And what matters, Ambassador?" Kesva looked out at the mixed fleet of human and alien ships preparing for the final assault. "People matter, Admiral. All people, regardless of species. You've reminded the galaxy of that truth." Chen nodded. "Then you're welcome to stay. But understand, we're not going home until every last swarm ship is destroyed." "I wouldn't expect anything less from humans," Kesva replied. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace for the final battle, Chen reflected on how much had changed. They had started as a rescue mission and become something far greater. They had become the galaxy's reminder that some things are worth fighting for, no matter the cost. The tactical display showed the route to the swarm's primary hive, a corrupted system that had been consuming stellar energy for millennia. Intelligence reports suggested it contained the central intelligence that coordinated all swarm activities. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump," Chen announced. "Destination, the end of this war." The combined human and alien fleet vanished into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of a galaxy that had almost forgotten how to hope. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the consumed zone, and what they saw defied comprehension. The Void Swarm's primary hive had once been a star system, but now it was something else entirely. The star itself was wrapped in organic matter that pulsed with alien life, feeding on stellar energy like a parasite. "Sensors are showing massive energy readings," reported Commander Kim. "Whatever that thing is, it's been growing for thousands of years." Admiral Chen stared at the tactical display. The hive world was larger than Jupiter, its surface covered in organic structures that reached into space like grasping tentacles. Swarm ships moved around it in complex patterns, more numerous than anything they had encountered before. "Communications. Get me the fleet," Chen ordered. "Admiral, we're detecting over 10,000 swarm vessels," announced Captain Vasquez from the Prometheus. "They're moving to intercept us." "Admiral," came the voice of Scholar Prime Kethna from one of the alien ships. "Our analysis suggests that structure is the central intelligence of the entire swarm. If we could destroy it, we might end their threat permanently." Chen nodded grimly. It was what he had expected. The final battle would require destroying something that had taken millennia to build. The question was whether humanity had enough ships to do it. "Dr. Tanaka, will your biological weapons work against something that size?" "Not effectively, Admiral. The hive is too large to saturate with pathogens. We'd need to get inside it somehow." "Admiral, this is Captain Murphy," came the old trader's voice over the communications channel. I've been studying the scanner readings. That thing has what looks like intake ports scattered across its surface, probably for feeding. What are you thinking, Murphy? Well, Admiral, back in my smuggling days, I learned that the best way to poison something big is to put the poison in its food. Chen smiled despite the gravity of the situation. Murphy, you magnificent bastard. What do you need? Give me every nuclear warhead in the fleet and a way to make them look like food. I'll deliver them personally. The plan that emerged was insane even by human standards. The fleet would engage the swarm ships in conventional battle, while a small group of volunteers used modified cargo containers to deliver nuclear weapons directly into the hive's feeding systems. This is suicide, protested Captain Vel9 of the Synthetic Collective. The probability of success is less than 3%. Captain, 3% is better than 0%, Chen replied. And 0% is what we get if we do nothing. Ambassador Kesva spoke up from her position on the bridge. Admiral, my people would like to volunteer for the delivery mission. Ambassador, with respect, your ships aren't built for this kind of operation. No, but we are expendable. If we fail, the galaxy loses nothing important. If humans fail, the galaxy loses its only hope. Chen was about to argue when Commander Kim interrupted. Admiral, incoming transmission from Earth, it's the President. The image of Earth's leader appeared on the main screen. Her face was grave but determined. Admiral Chen, we've been monitoring your progress. The entire solar system is watching. Madam President, we're about to engage the primary hive. Casualties will be heavy. James, I want you to know that every human who volunteered for this mission has already been declared a hero. Whatever happens today, you've made humanity proud. Thank you, Madam President. We won't let you down. Admiral, there's something else. We've been in contact with the other species governments. They want you to know that if you succeed here today, they're prepared to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council. Chen almost laughed. Madam President, with respect, we didn't come here to join anyone's club. We came because people needed help. I know, James, that's exactly why they want you in the council. The transmission ended, and Chen turned to his crew, young faces looking to him for leadership. Alien allies who had learned to trust human judgment, and an enemy that had never known defeat. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. Today we end this war, not because we have to, but because we choose to. The Void Swarm thought they could consume the galaxy without consequences. They were wrong. The human fleet moved forward in a formation that had become legendary throughout the galaxy. No careful battle lines or defensive positions. Just humanity's simple approach to warfare. Move toward the enemy and don't stop until the job is done. The swarm responded with every ship they had. Energy weapons lit up space like a deadly aurora, and the first wave of human vessels took devastating casualties. But for every human ship destroyed, the aliens began to understand something important. Humans didn't retreat when they took losses. They got angry. Captain Morrison's replacement on the Big Betty II rammed his ship into a swarm cruiser while screaming over the radio, "That's for the original Big Betty, you sons of bitches." The battle raged for hours, with both sides taking terrible losses. But gradually, the human fleet fought its way closer to the hive world. Captain Murphy and his volunteer squadron waited for their moment. "Admiral, we're in position," Murphy reported, beginning our approach to the hive. "Murphy, it's been an honor serving with you." "Admiral, the honor was mine." Murphy out. The old trader ship, loaded with enough nuclear weapons to sterilize a planet, headed straight for the largest feeding port on the hive world. Behind him came volunteers from a dozen species, all carrying their own deadly cargo. The swarm tried to stop them, but the main battle had drawn most of their forces away. Murphy's ship took hit after hit, but he kept flying. "This is for every person you bastards killed," Murphy said over the radio as his ship disappeared into the hive's organic structure. The explosion came 30 seconds later, not just Murphy's ship, but all the volunteer vessels detonating simultaneously deep inside the hive world. The organic structure began to buckle and collapse as nuclear fire consumed it from within. "Admiral, we're detecting massive system failures throughout the hive," reported Dr. Tanaka. "The explosions are spreading through their organic matrix." The effect on the swarm fleet was immediate. Ships that had been fighting with coordinated precision suddenly began moving randomly, as if they had lost all central control. "All ships, press the attack," Chen ordered. They're leaderless now. What followed was less a battle than a massacre. Without their central intelligence, the Void Swarm ships fought like mindless animals. Human and alien forces systematically destroyed them, ship by ship. The hive world itself began to come apart. The organic structures that had wrapped around the star started to peel away, burning up in the stellar radiation they had been feeding on for millennia. "Admiral, we're detecting the star itself," announced Commander Kim. "It's returning to normal fusion patterns." Chen watched as the corrupted system slowly returned to life. The star, freed from its organic prison, blazed with clean light for the first time in thousands of years. "Fleet status report," Chen ordered. The numbers were sobering. Of the 847 ships that had left Earth, only 23 remained combat effective. The human casualties were over 90%. The alien forces had suffered similar losses, but they had won. "Admiral, this is the Galactic Council," came a transmission from the edge of the system. "We're detecting the collapse of the swarm network throughout the galaxy." "How did you do it?" "We did what humans do," Chen replied. "We kept fighting until the job was done." The aftermath of the battle would be remembered for generations. The Void Swarm, broken and leaderless, retreated to the darkest corners of the galaxy where they slowly died out. The species they had enslaved began to rebuild. But the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed humanity. The memorial service was held on Earth, in the same chamber where the president had authorized the mission. Representatives from every known species attended, many for the first time ever visiting the legendary Deathworld. Ambassador HFY spoke for all of them when she addressed the crowd. "We called for help, and humanity answered. Not because they had to, not because we deserved it, but because that's who they are. They are the people who run toward danger when others run away. They are the people who sacrifice everything for strangers." Admiral Chen, one of only 8,000 humans to return from the mission, was offered command of the new Galactic Defense Force. His response became part of human legend. "I'm honored by the offer, but I decline. Humans don't fight wars to gain power. We fight them to protect people. That's all we've ever done, and that's all we'll ever do." As the ceremony ended and the alien dignitaries returned to their homeworlds, Earth's children learned a new lesson in their history classes. They learned that their parents and grandparents had traveled across the galaxy, not to conquer or to gain glory, but simply because someone had called for help. And in the depths of space, on worlds whose names most humans would never know, alien children learned a different lesson. They learned that when all hope is lost, when the darkness seems overwhelming, when evil appears unstoppable, there are people in the galaxy who will come. They learned that the humans will always come. The galaxy was safe, not because of superior technology or clever strategies, but because of something much simpler and much more powerful. Because when someone calls for help, humans answer, and they never stop answering.